Hello and welcome back to Armchair Sports Talk. Today we're going to take a look back at the action from this past weekend, dive into the Michigan and Wisconsin ball game, as well as take a look and talk about the UGA and Notre Dame showdown that was on Saturday night. All that and more coming up next on Armchair Sports Talk, college football. All right, good evening. Bringing in our college football analyst, Mr. Sean Hicks from Dallas. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I thought it was weird how they didn't play any football this weekend because as far as I know, as a Michigan fan, no football was played this weekend. None whatsoever. Zero football. I thought that was weird. Real odd.
Man, I didn't get to watch any of that Wisconsin and Michigan ball game, but I did see the score a couple different times while I was at work, and I got to say, man, my heart went out to you.
I got a lot of texts. I got a lot of "Are you alive?" text. I think I concerned everybody because after that I had a couple at an ultimate frisbee tournament this weekend that I was at, so my phone was gone for a while, and so I didn't answer questions. So I got a lot of suicide watch notes, but I'm okay. I made it through. I'm healing. I'm in the process.
Man, just glad you hear you pulled through. I think there's hopefully better things to come, and this isn't the kind of the downfall of the Harbaugh era back in Ann Arbor, which a lot of folks are already calling for. There's a lot of stuff already out there, people calling for his head. And we're going to get into that a little bit. But going into that game, though, we all knew it was going to be a huge kind of crossroads game, if you will, for Michigan. People had their doubts still about Wisconsin, but really it was going to be a tell-all game about who the Wolverines are going to be this year. So give us your recap of the game, kind of what you saw, and ultimately what happened.
Well, I think it's important to credit Wisconsin as much as attack Michigan in this. I think it told a lot about both teams. Honestly, in my preview, I predicted a Wisconsin win. I thought it was going to be a kind of a close game where Wisconsin had the advantage for most of it. And at the end, our defense just wasn't going to be able to stop Jonathan Taylor, given how banged up we are on the front lines. And Wisconsin is kind of built to take advantage of our weaknesses specifically. And I felt that they were going to win. But there's a big difference between winning 24-14, right, and being up 28-0 and shellacking them and going to kill the clock mode by the time you're in the second half, right? There's a big difference between those two, and I do think it says a lot. But let's start about with Wisconsin. Man, I'm telling you, Jonathan Taylor is the best player in the nation. I don't know what it drives me insane that he is not on the front poster of every Heisman campaign, because this dude has run for 2,000 yards both his freshman and his sophomore year. It's not like this is brand new that he's awesome, right? But
yeah, this game, 23 carries, 203 yards, 8.8 yards per attempt, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I would also like to add he cramped and missed a lot of time in the game too, right? If he could have gone for 300 yards legitimately in this game. He is ridiculously good. He ran for 100 yards on Michigan last year when we were one of the top rush defenses in the nation. He's you just watch him play, and he's one of those guys that he reminds me of Le'Veon Bell's patience with the explosiveness of a Alvin Kamara or Saquon Barkley. I honestly think he's going to be one of the best running backs. He's a generational type of guy.
And, that's a pretty good combination of players there.
Yeah, I'm a real. He's not the pass catcher either of those guys are. But when it actually comes to reading a hole, I don't know if there's a better guy right now on it. And the thing with Wisconsin is they've developed the ability to throw the football. Now they're not great at it, but they're not the worst team in the nation, which makes them terrifying on offense, honestly.
Well, looking at the stats, man, I mean, this is what's a little bit troubling for me if I'm a Michigan fan, because going into that game, we spoke about, Jonathan Taylor, and just the blueprint of a Wisconsin team is that offensive line and that running game, right?
Yep.
So when we've talked about Jack Cohn being, not really the guy that's going to win you many games, but his goal is to not lose games. I know he probably made some good plays in this game. He had good stats, but he only threw the ball 16 times. Granted, like you said, he didn't have to. But if you're Michigan, how do you not figure out a way to slow that ground game down from the very beginning?
Yeah, well, what happened was we knew we were going to get paved with our defensive tackle situation and the injuries that we have on there. So we try to game them significantly. We ran a lot of stunts and try to run a lot of game blitzes. And the problem was, even when we got it right a few times, is twice specifically, Jonathan Taylor made a absolutely out of the world play and turned what should have been a 2-yard loss into a 25-yard game. And it caused us, and I got to give credit to Turtle, to their coach, of doing a lot of really intelligent motions that screwed with our game. And they created a lot of really good gaps where we misfilled with our safeties and our corners, specifically in specific gaps, which led it to a lot of big plays happening. I mean, that's how it happened on defense. And to be honest, I'm not that shocked us getting paved to an extent. I mean, I'm shocked by how bad it was.
Right. And the other thing, if you flip it over to the other side, man, like, I mean, you've mentioned, off air and in your notes, like, the inefficiencies into Shea Patterson, not involving some of their playmakers like a Nico Collins, and looking at their ground game, man, like rushing wise, y'all had, nothing. Like Dylan McCaffrey, 3 rushes, 21 yards, Christian Turner, 6 carries, 17 yards. That's it.
The thing that's amazing about it is we just decided we weren't going to run the football early on in the game. And yes, those aren't very good stats, but to me, it's not a personnel thing in a lot of ways from the ground game. All of it was very scheme based, and it comes back to the old adage is we're running a read option game where we're not keeping the quarterback as a threat to really run the football.
Which doesn't make any sense. Shea Patterson is a dual threat guy. He came out of high school. He's a dual threat guy, and
he was last year too, right? I mean, last year during the Wisconsin, Penn State, all those runs, he wasn't running for a huge amount, right? But he's running for.
But he's keeping him honest, yeah. And
absolutely. We're not doing that. And maybe this is on Shea. Maybe he's blowing all these reads. Maybe this is the scheme, but. The biggest concern for me from a Michigan fan is our offensive scheme is a disaster right now.
Right, and that's the bigger picture here is what's going on with the new offensive coordinator.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 100% of a disaster. And the thing is, a lot of the play designs are cool, but it kind of looks like somebody stole a playbook and is not sure how to actually do it.
Right, not sure how to execute it. They just know who's supposed to line up where.
Right. And my hope is it looks a lot like Penn State did in 2016 where they started to put it together. And this is our quote-unquote Michigan game where we went on the road against a top 10 team and got smashed with a bunch of –
And that was with Moorhead calling plays?
That was with Moorhead calling plays, and it was first year. And it took a while for that machine to get going, but the second half of the year it was a machine. And that's – I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, that's the hope, but it's blind hope to an extent right now. Like there's nothing that's shown me on paper – right, that this is going to get better. Like I said, it looks like a guy who stole the playbook, but is not quite sure how to do it, and that's what it looks like. That sucks.
And there were concerns. I mean, all the moves in the offseason seemed to just line up perfect for what Harbaugh was trying to do.
Harbaugh took the keys off.
And I think that's a problem.
It's the best years of Michigan with Harbaugh's been when he was on offense. The 2015 and 2016 year when he was essentially the offensive coordinator with Jed Fish. And I kind of wish, and that's not necessarily looks like modern football with, their tight ends and run, but they had a lot of really good design back then. And the stats don't look as good, mostly because our starting quarterback broke his collarbone, which can derail a season pretty quickly. At the end of the year in 2016, but I kind of missed the Harbaugh run, really had designed the keys on the offense when he was running games a lot. And he, in credit to him, he thought that we needed to go explosiveness, and he took a huge gamble, and one I supported too as a fan. Like I thought this was the right way to go. The problem is it looks like he picked the wrong guy.
Well, and like I said, on paper, like this was a brilliant hire, a great hire, because you got a couple dual threat guys that you can put behind center in Patterson and Dylan McCaffrey, and then some talent around them. I mean, I'm with you, man. It looked like a brilliant move to bring a guy like that in. But then you started to hear some of the things later on in the summer from a Mike Loxley, who we'll talk about actually in our next show, our preview show over at Maryland. But he made some comments about Gaddis maybe not being as involved in the actual play calling. And now you see a few weeks into the season, kind of the mess we're in here with the lack in development, really regression in quarterback Shea Patterson. I go back to the Under Armour All-American game when Patterson still hadn't decided on where he was going to go to school yet. And that guy was the best player, definitely the best quarterback on the field.
He was great
that year, and then ended up deciding to go to Ole Miss with that killer class they put
So,
together
so
a
let's
few
talk about
times.
Shea for a second, because one thing that I do think is a problem is Shea, and it's this: is he cannot read a defense. If he
Hmm.
sees zone, he has no idea what to do, and that's a serious. Like he's good with if it's his first read, and he's crazy creepily accurate most of the time. But if he sees a zone, like 7 people drop in a zone, he has no idea what the hell to do. And
Yeah.
that's Wisconsin. That's all they did all day. They ran twist stunts up front, which honestly our offensive line mostly did a pretty good job throughout the day. And then they ran 7 zone behind him, and he looked like he didn't know what to do. And it's frustrating to me as well, because throw it to freaking Nico Collins if you
Yeah.
don't know what to do, man. Like, this dude, he's 6'4", he's giant, he's fast, and in a contested catch rate of 85%. If you throw to him and he's in single coverage, it's not a bad throw, and he won't throw. And unless he's wide open, he won't throw it. It's very frustrating to me as a as a
Oh,
Michigan fan. And I'm just like, it's very frustrating watching, Georgia's almost entire pass offense sometimes with Fields is try to throw back shoulder throws and going, I know Shea can do this. It's not a
yeah.
read. This is the thing I know he can do.
Right.
And it seems to be something we don't practice religiously, and it's very frustrating.
When I go back to the coaching, though, I think that's where Harbaugh still needs to be involved and put his stamp on what this team is actually going to be. He can bring in the sexy new coordinator with this, wild ideas and different scheme and whatnot, but it doesn't look like a Jim Harbaugh coach team right now. It doesn't have that stamp on it like those 49er teams did, or going back to a Stanford, like a gritty, run the football, play action kind of disciplined team. It just looks like a completely different team altogether. Like he really did just give this guy the keys, who might not have been ready to take it and run with it. So now at this point, again, like the talent that you have on hand, I think he's letting it run away from him a little bit, because just came up on my newsfeed here. I don't know if you saw this about Nico Collins liked a tweet about hashtag fire Harbaugh. So, I mean, he's losing his team now.
I think that's probably a exaggeration, maybe from the
Maybe
like of
just
the
like
tweet.
being sarcastic and acknowledging it, like
Yeah, I
whatever.
think
But
that might be an exaggeration. I'm not going to freak
yeah,
out over that, but I mean,
but hopefully that's not true, though. I mean, I would hate to see like him lose a team like that, because I think it's great for college football for Michigan to be good. I think it's great for the big personalities to be in big schools that can influence the game in a positive manner, like a Harbaugh in Ann Arbor. It was good when Meyer was in Ohio State, so on and so forth with the other powerhouses. So I think Harbaugh can do a lot of good for the game. And so I hope he can get it figured out with Gaddis. And I think ultimately, based on our conversations and then kind of looking into this game, I think it's going to involve him being a lot more involved in the offensive game planning, maybe even the play calling.
it's not here's the thing. It's with Harbaugh, it's proven that he's a very damn good coach, right?
Yeah.
This is despite this game reminding me a lot of a Brady Hoke game against Notre Dame in 2014. Harbaugh is enough experience for not just in his throughout his career, but at Michigan specifically, that he's a really damn good coach, and that he can collect himself from a pretty brutal type of a loss, right? Think of the punt drop of Michigan State in 2015, and then still being able to hold on, right? So, to me, I'm going to be looking at the Iowa game in 2 weeks. That's really what I'm going to be looking
Because
at.
they're off this week, right? So they get the week to
No, well,
regroup.
we play Rutgers, so yeah, we're off this week.
Okay, they play Rutgers, right?
So, but that's what I'm really going to be looking at, because I was a quality team. They're not great. They're a quality team. We have them at home. What do we look like against them? Certainly do we win the game, obviously, but even more than that, right? If things are moving in the direction, we do have some time before the schedule really kicks in.
Well, they got to establish, again, that identity. Like right now, they don't know who they are. Only having that
ball.
Yeah, just
dude.
run the football. Yeah, just run it.
Well, I'm fine with that. We have some of the best receivers in the nation, but my problem is the running game, who we have actually a really great group of guards and center, right? And we can't run the football because it's so poorly designed.
And I'm okay with them spreading it out, but I mean, Harbaugh was so innovative with those different formations that he used in the NFL, and then showed there for a while it could work in college, in the college game. So, yeah, man, like I said, I'm with you. I think they gotta show something in the next couple of weeks, and I hope Jim Harbaugh's back in those offensive meeting rooms a little bit more this week during install, and changing up the game plan a little bit. And granted, it's going to be a Rutgers team, but I think they'll get their momentum back behind them and hopefully be ready, to play Ohio State down the road and put up a game that could embarrass.
It's too early to panic, but it's nothing we've seen has given us confidence except the history of the past. I think the hope is that this is a Moorhead situation, and which means it's just going to take the first part of the year to get up and running, and the second part is,
Yeah.
it's good to go. I mean, that is the hope. This is a giant change in offensive scheme from the last couple of
Right.
years.
And part of me, I do admire the fact that Harbaugh is going to, stick to his commitment. Like, I brought this guy in. I trust him, and his ability to come and change things up a little bit. So he's letting him do his thing. But I guess it didn't look like, again, that team did not have a Jim Harbaugh blueprint from top to bottom. So, you're hearing a lot of the rumblings about, has he lost his touch in the college game? I guess, what do you think about those naysayers, if you will, about Harbaugh? And then also, what's his outlook for the rest of the season? How do you think they'll finish
too
up?
early to tell. I mean, honestly, listen, if it keeps how it is, right, and this is a 7-5 season with the talent we have, it's a problem. I mean, this is a tough schedule, but if it's something like that, okay, there's something that needs to be looked at. Now, I'm not firing Harbaugh is still a ridiculous statement, right? Especially with all the talent we'd have coming back the next year. I mean, it'd be a ridiculous statement, but it's something that seriously needs to be looked at for sure. That's, that caveat aside, is it's a really, really auspicious start. What I'm going to say for, all the Feinbaumians out there is we've played 3 games. There are 9 more games to go. They're games against Penn State, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Iowa left on the schedule, right? Let's see what happens first before we start losing our cool. Is the only thing I would say.
Yeah, and like you said, it was such a big change. Patterson, altogether, he's still just a great prospect. He hasn't really performed that high of a level at this, in college yet. And I think your point about him not being able to read his own defense and adjust is case in point there. So a lot of things have to be developed, and yeah, I certainly hope. I'm a fan of Jim Harbaugh. So I think you're right. It's going to take some time to evaluate and see how they finish up the season. But, going in with the high expectations that they had, I think everybody could see, on paper, this is a team that could contend for a, college football playoff. But it's looking like that needs to be, fast tracked and move forward to 2020, unfortunately, for yourself, man. I'm sorry.
One thing I will add into this that does skew everything a little bit. Right now, our fumble luck has been the worst in the nation by a lot. We've lost 11 fumbles, and fumbles are random as hell.
Nothing you can do about that, yeah.
Yeah, like there's some of it that I think is a little out there.
Just some tough luck, yeah.
I do want to say this about Wisconsin is I kind of feel like Wisconsin-Ohio State is a playoff game coming up here in a couple weeks.
But the firepower that Ohio State has, I mean, I just can't.
Ohio State has the type of team that can take advantage of Wisconsin's defense for sure.
Right.
But Jonathan Taylor is a dude. And
yeah, he is. But Ohio State, they're gonna have the same playmakers. Hopefully, not the injuries up front. And I don't think if they do get down, I mean, they can score some
fair.
points.
I mean, the Wisconsin can't get down in that game. I mean, I agree with you there. But I'm the S&P Plus has them as the number 1 team in the nation right now, which I think is an exaggeration, perhaps. But I'm a believer in that they are a playoff level team, given what I saw. I watched that whole game, and that offense is a top 5 offense. Even with Jack Cohn,
it's gonna be a good game. I don't think Ohio State has or will play anybody to that caliber. When's that game?
Nebraska will be decent a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, so they play Nebraska on the road. That's gonna be a good game. I don't think Nebraska's quite there yet from a talent standpoint. Couple more years probably.
Nebraska preview, but I think the way Nebraska plays offense is going to expose some defensive challenges on Ohio State's coaching staff. We'll get into that in more detail, but I have some interesting thoughts of that game.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to take a look to see if Ohio State had anybody else before they played them, but either way, anything else on Michigan? I guess, where are you at with Harbaugh? I mean, I don't think even if this team goes 5-7 this year, I don't think you don't
fire him. That'd be ridiculous. That'd be a ridiculous thing to do. And there's still so much damn talent that's still going to be around next year if we have a bad year, assuming our receiving core doesn't get decimated. That you in some ways you'll have a better chance next year with McCaffrey and a defense that's now mature and is going to hopefully not be so decimated up front with injuries. And and that's older and has the talent there. So yeah, that'd be a ridiculous thing, but I'll say, like, as a fan, I'm very nervous for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think for all the things you look for to check off in a ideal coaching candidate, the guy's an alumnus, played there, proven NFL guy, can recruit, gets the alumni excited, clearly a coach, and in terms of being able to develop and train young men and turn them into good people. There's no way. I mean, there's high expectations in Michigan, just like there is at any of these blue blood programs. But if you're Michigan, you get rid of Harbaugh, a guy that literally is the ideal, perfect candidate to coach that university. I always go back to the point when they were talking about firing Mark Richt. Like, who are you going to get that's better to coach in Ann Arbor, Michigan?
Georgia's literally the only team in the history of college football who has fired a legendary coach who has got them above where anybody else has gotten them and has improved.
Yeah.
And there are very specific reasons Kirby Smart has been able to do that.
Yes.
Where we'll say that Richt refused to jump in do those certain things that Kirby Smart was willing to do. If you can read between those lines.
Yes,
and I think
absolutely. Just in the way he recruits, getting in with the donors, getting in with the administration, being a little bit more aggressive.
And as a Michigan fan, we should probably accept that we're a 5 to 10 program and not a top 5 program, given the way that we just will never be able to recruit to the level that Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State are going to do. We'll never get there, given the way we structured ourselves, the talent pool we have in our local area, and these self-imposed challenges we put on ourselves by not paying players, which we should do.
Yes, we're going to get into that later well in a separate episode. But
I wish we did. Okay, but moving on to paying players.
But
Georgia, Notre Dame.
There you go.
Segue, right? Isaiah Wilson. Sorry.
We have, by the way, Ohio State does not really play anybody until they play Wisconsin.
No, and it's not.
They'll play Michigan State, who just lost to Arizona State at home. So, yeah, nothing to worry about there. So, yeah, it'll be a true test to see.
Be a test for their offense.
Yeah, they do have a legit defense. Yeah, that'll be the first we're showing
that's the best
test.
Defense in the nation.
I think the next 2 weeks probably for Fields. Yeah, Michigan State's going to be tough, and then on the road at night in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. That's going to be tough.
Yep.
Then that's his last test. He plays Northwestern on the road, and then the big game at home, though, against Wisconsin.
Yep.
But either way, so the other big game from Saturday, freaking unbelievable showing, and just home atmosphere, really, in Athens. Made me proud to be a UGA alum.
It was a real good one.
But almost like a WWE, like showmanship, light show, like they had this crazy entrance where the team got introduced, and like usually it's just like, everyone's standing excited, the band's out there and blah blah blah, they put up the thing and people run through it. No, they had the lights flickering, they had all this stuff going on, and this crazy performance, and then this music, like it was like Hulk Hogan coming out to his theme song at WrestleMania. It was freaking awesome, man. And that new West End Zone is all renovated, an $80 million project. Just really cool to see it all come together. And that's one of those things that Kirby, again, a lot more aggressive with the administration, but they're getting things done, man. I think it's really going to help with recruiting. Long story short, they put on a great performance before the game. I mean, a record crowd at Sanford Stadium. Once the game started, though, as a fan, I started to get a little bit of nerves going through me saying, like, this isn't the same old Georgia, is it? Like, come on, we're letting them hang around a little bit too long here. Granted, Notre Dame looked great. Made a lot of big tackles early on. But
this was a heavyweight fight.
Yeah, we muffed the punt. I mean, we
like
literally let Notre Dame stay in the game. And so part of me was like, oh, gosh, it's just same old Georgia. But what did you think about just the first half and kind of coming out?
Yeah, this was kind of an interesting game. Spencer Hall called it a boring-ass game on Twitter. And I'm not going to go that far because I don't think it was a boring-ass game. But I do feel like, well, first of all, like I said, I think these are two great teams. So let's start that out. So this is a great win for Georgia. I definitely get what you were talking about, though, because I feel as any Georgia fan watching that is maybe not the most happy about their offensive coaching staff and some of the play calling that was going on. But I think the place to start with this is Notre Dame belonged on the field with Georgia, right? Like, I think that, I think I talked about it in the preview of the season, how I get annoyed sometimes when you take a look at one game and you extrapolate that out and build narratives out of that, and how Notre Dame, they're not a terrible program because they got blown out by Clemson and then Alabama in 2012. I think this showed them that this is a really top 10 level team and belonged on the field with Georgia, played them tight. They didn't look like they were massively out-talented or overwhelmed, right? Like, I think Georgia looked like the better team consistently, but it wasn't leaps and bounds, right?
No, yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing. As a fan, you got a little concerned because you were like, "Oh crap, that guy just made that tackle," and then that tight end is a freaking monster.
Right. Yeah.
Komet, I think you pronounce his name, but Komet, I was just scratching my head. I was like, if we just cover this tight end and didn't muff that punt,
he was hurt too. He was only like 60%. He just came. That was his first game back from injury. He wasn't expected to be back for this game.
Yeah, but Notre Dame came out with a clear game plan. They knew they could take advantage of the tight end. They weren't even throwing it to their wide receivers or trying to. I think the stat that I read, they only threw to the wide receivers twice, attempted to throw to the wide receivers twice in the first half. Yep. So that was their game plan to kind of stay in the game and get ahead or, make it competitive until the second half. And like you were saying, as a Georgia fan, you're a little bit disappointed, but Kirby and the coaching staff came out and admitted, which may or may not be the actual case of what happened, but they said that was their game plan, was to come out, utilize that home atmosphere and kind of use their depth to, in the end, wear down Notre Dame in that environment.
That's their game plan. That was a dumbass game plan.
I agree, because let's let a team stick around and stay in the game and let the things happen by chance. That happened by chance. Hence the muffed punt.
What if a pass goes the wrong way? A muffed punt, right?
Exactly, that kept them in the game.
You guys had an interception that was kind of bounced around and then just ended up in the arms. What if that hits the ground instead?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, tip balls can go anywhere. They can end up. What if a Notre Dame guy was there? I mean, this can happen. No, I agree. I mean, I think we say that it's a huge win for Georgia, right? This is a top 10 team, and at home, in some ways it feels disappointing because the odds makers had you like a 14-point favorite in the game. But let's not talk crazy. This was a really good win. That was a disappointing game plan, is the way I would call it. I'd call it a disappointment by the coaching staff. Great job by the players on the field.
More to that, and I mentioned off air to you in our group chat and a couple other buddies of mine, like our mammoth of a right tackle who's going to play in the NFL in probably next year, Isaiah Wilson, didn't see the field until the third quarter. We had who also was another great player, but Cade Mays moved from left guard to right tackle and then moved Ben Cleveland was out there. So then we had at one point our third string left guard in the game with Cade Mays at right tackle. Where was Isaiah Wilson? And I haven't read anything about him being injured and didn't hear anything on the I was surprised the commentary didn't pick up on it because Isaiah Wilson is a beast.
That sounds like what that sounds like is a suspension, is an internal suspension. That
most
fact that
likely
nobody said anything about it and that it's been so mum that sounds like an internal.
But you would think, though, a guy like that, I mean, he's going to be second team, probably all SEC at least, third team something. But that kind of notoriety, moving him around like that, that kind of threw off the offense to me. They're still kind of breaking in those wide receivers. And then the play calling from there, it was just like, what are we doing? What are we trying to do? Yep. I mean, I like some of the like up tempo stuff they're trying to do. Reminds me a lot of what they're doing in Sean McVay does with the Rams in the pro game. Yep. But a lot of quick snaps and trying to stretch the defense horizontally and then bust them vertically. I love DeAndre Swift, man. Like sometimes I'm just like, how is he so shifty to slide through the line and just break through those creases? He's incredible.
It's funny. I've gotten a lot of crap from my not liking DeAndre Swift, despite the fact that I said he was going to be in the NFL for 12 years. Take on that, because the only thing because everyone latches onto the first part of the conversation, which is I think that he's not the greatest inside tackle runner.
No, he's not, but he fits. He certainly fits the pro game perfectly. And I mean, I think he's a great complementary back for Georgia. I think Zamir White needs to get the ball though. I mean, I love Brian Herrien as a player, but he's not a Zamir White talent-wise.
Brian Herrien actually looked really good in this game.
He did, but he's not going to be a game breaker. Like Zamir White's going to play in the league. He could win the Heisman Trophy. Brian Herring
That's
can't.
no, that's true. Herring doesn't have the
No.
talent.
So just like from a talent standpoint alone, if you're looking at the next Gurley, Michelle, Keith Marshall, Gurley, again, combo at Georgia, that's what you're going for, is that power and speed. And Herring just, to me, he's a third string running back.
Let's talk about the game plan a little bit, because I think that deserves a pretty deep dive, because Georgia clearly saw what everybody saw against Louisville and really against New Mexico State on Notre Dame, which is their linebackers can be had. So their game plan real early on was, we're going to line up and smash you, and we're going to try to get our athletes in space against you and truly run a couple of misdirection plays and get them in. And Notre Dame did a fantastic job of not getting beat for the big one and doing a really good job of tackling in space. And this seemed to clearly surprise the offensive coaching staff. And for really a half, once that first game plan didn't work, they seemed kind of shook, that they didn't know what else to go towards. And I think that's, it was interesting when I looked at the preview, is Georgia had a great scripted drive every game for like the first couple drives, and then they just kind of bashed their heads against the wall because they could. Right. They looked like they wanted to do that here. Their scripted drive didn't work. They're like, okay, well, we'll just bash our heads into a wall. And we're shocked to find out that, wow, Notre Dame's defense is really good, and we just can't try to overrun them and expect to score 60 points.
Right. I think it was a good, I think you're right on all points there in terms of their approach and how they were wrong with that. But I think at the end of the day, it was definitely good to face that challenge in a true college football playoff contending
Hopefully
defense.
They learn. Right?
Yeah, they have to, because they're going to see that, the Clemson defenses of the world, LSU's and the Auburns, although they're giving up a lot of points right now, they can still play defense.
Yeah,
they're still going to be able to shut down the edges. Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like they were so disciplined, the Notre Dame defenders, they would keep containment, those cornerbacks, force the runner back inside, and still make the play. They would bust up the screens. Really just doing a heck of a job tackling the runner in open space. I mean, it was really impressive.
They made Georgia run the field, right?
Yeah.
They'll give up 10 yards, but they're not going to give up 50.
Right.
Is what that happened throughout that, which was a really credit the coaching staff for Notre Dame. It was a really well done, I think, game plan. I think they played conservatively, willing to give up some smaller chunk runs to not get burned and make them go to the side of the field. The part that I don't understand, I texted you guys in my own group chat of like, how do you have an NFL quarterback in the backfield and you show zero trust in him?
Well, that was my next point is throughout that first half, at one point he was like 11 out of 12 for like 47 yards.
Right.
It was like
screens too. By the way.
It was like so our game plan was to literally not let him hold on to the football and try to push it downfield at all. It's just let's not turn it over. So like at home in that environment, you would think you'd be willing to take some chances and risk it a little bit, because
that was a freshman quarterback game plan.
Yeah, it was like he was when he was in South Bend 2 years ago. Right. So yeah, I agree.
Which made sense 2 years ago for the record.
Yes, exactly. But then finally in the second half, they did break it open. That kid from Miami, Cager, wide receiver, he looks like a real game breaker and kind of coming along. And then
smart with him too. They, he obviously he beasted up some plays, but they kept his route running to
a minimum.
Run back shoulder throws and 9 routes, which is hey, I'm not complaining. Like, that's right.
Yeah, you're right. I think, golly, we've done that a couple of years actually with that kid that was a JUCO guy a couple of years ago. Can't remember his name. Anyway, I think
Holloman too was going to be your next guy.
The Ravens now.
Yeah.
But it was great to see though. I thought that the freshmen look good. The true freshmen, I think they're coming along. Wide receiver, tight ends making some big plays. But all in all, though, I think it's interesting because you pointed out the Mark Richt, firing, bringing in Kirby Smart. And a lot of folks don't realize that Kirby didn't have any head coaching experience before taking over the Dawgs.
Right.
He had the 2016 year, which, I think they were, 7-5, 8-4, something like that. And then you go into 2017, they play for the national championship. Questionable play calling. Then again, this past year, 2018, the exact same thing. So I think ultimately
that's a good point, actually, that I didn't think of. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brandon, but you're right I didn't think about this, but he has kind of had a turtle mentality in some of these big games where it's been extra conservative more than it's needed to. I didn't think about that, but you're 100% right on that.
And then you go into, like I said, this past year, questionable calls. Questionable call in this game too. What was it? A 4th and 1 late in the
Dude,
game.
what are you do? So like the football, persona in me, right? Like I think we all have this, like where it's not attached to any team. We just want to see good football. Was like hoping Notre Dame would win the game to punish him for not going for it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just
So
like,
like
dude, come on.
that you have the best offensive line in the nation.
Yeah,
It is 4th and inches.
you're at home.
Goggles is great. Listen,
Yeah.
Goggles is great, but anytime it's plus 40 yards, it's not a gimme field goal,
No.
right? And you freaking kick a field goal.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame still can win with a touchdown.
Yeah.
My football self was pretty riled up about
Yeah, I was definitely with you there. It's just like, okay, we're giving them a shot. Flashback to that Tennessee game a few years ago or whatever when they pulled it off, and Kirby was there at that point. But yeah, I think he's still learning as a coach is what I'm getting at. I think he's certainly bringing in the players. There's no doubt about that. He seems to be developing the players. I think he's still adjusting to these new coordinators. I don't think they're quite there yet. I've been really disappointed.
My thoughts on the coordinator. Your offensive coordinator.
Just like why you're Georgia, you can get somebody better than James Coley. I think Coley, from what I've read about him, he has the potential, but he's still somewhat unproven. And Kirby's not an offensive guy. So really, that's why it was so beautiful with the previous regime.
Jim Chaney is a good
with Jim Chaney because he could do his own thing. He could call his own plays. He could stick to his game plan or make adjustments to his game plan. Like I just said, Kirby had no experience coming up with a game plan before 2016 on his own. Right. Now he's got to do it with 2 new coordinators who haven't done it for that long, Dan Lanning and James Coley. That's my biggest concern. It was coming into the season, and it is now. And basically,
they didn't rest that concern, did they?
No, not at all. If anything, it exacerbated it a little bit more. Yeah. Just like, okay, we have a guy like Fromm. Let Fromm be the Peyton Manning of our offense and just run it. You know what I mean? Like
the lack of trust in Fromm does really irritate me because I've been on the Jake Fromm is awesome bandwagon. He had a bad game against LSU last year when they couldn't protect him. And he had a bad game against Texas when the entire Georgia team didn't care.
They were checked out. They were on Bourbon Street already.
That first half against Alabama is one of the finest quarterbacking performances I've ever seen in my life.
No doubt.
Like, one of the single best quarterback performances. Some of the windows he hit did not exist. They were not right.
Yeah.
How do you have this guy and you don't trust him? Like
that's what I'm saying. Like you give him the controls. Like he does so much before the play.
Yep.
But I want to see him basically give him full control of it. I want to see a lot more back shoulder passes. He throws the best back shoulder in college football.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about
it. On that. He does. He really does.
I think they could be a lot more creative. They have a stable of running backs. I mean, they could just honestly, and this is going to sound crazy, and a lot of Georgia fans are probably going to try to throw stuff at me, but like a Mike Bobo run offense with
he's a great coordinator. Sorry,
dude, with Jake Fromm.
I know.
Like,
I'm sorry.
It would be just a machine.
Mike Bobo
efficiency.
Was Georgia's best coordinator that they've ever had, and it drives me insane that people still don't like him because he took 3 straight top 5 S&P plus teams. But never mind.
But I mean, he has the Fromm has the clutch gene that really Murray didn't really have. I mean, he showed flashes of it against Bama in those big games, but in general, it was not really there. So I think every time we've had the chance for Fromm to like close out that game with a Jim Chaney, he pulled off the gas. I just say we go all out. We just give this guy the offense and say, Fromm, it's your game. You tell us what to do, and you manage the game for us to win.
Yeah, and I really think it fills in my opinion on Georgia. They look like Alabama 2010, 2011, 2012, right? And that's great. And Alabama 2010, 2011, 2012 is going to win you a hell of a lot of games.
But the difference, Sean, though, is Jake Fromm is not Greg McElroy. He's not AJ
That is
McCarron.
true. No, that is true. Hey, Greg McElroy is a NFL playoff starting quarterback. Sir.
Fair.
Not winning, but he started a playoff game for the Bengals. Okay.
Very fair. Or McCarron. Yeah, McCarron did.
Oh, McCarron. Sorry, not McElroy.
Yeah.
You're right.
And McElroy, actually, the Jets, I was at that game. The Jets started Greg McElroy instead of Tim Tebow at one point.
Well, they made one good
decision. Crazy. So that was his claim to fame in the pros. But my point is that those guys were clearly game managers, whereas Fromm is not.
Well, they treat him like a game manager.
They
though.
certainly
So
do.
if you treat him like one, that may come back and bite you. I mean, we've already we've seen it twice against Alabama in the second half when they went into clock killing mode. Twice, right? Like, and we all know what that happens. My concern is that you are the most talented team in the nation with a coach that is not adapting to modern football. And
right.
I think that's going to win you a bunch of SEC East championships. I don't know if that's going to win you a bunch of national championships.
No, it's not going to get you over the hump. And then not only that, but take the home crowd out of it, which was
a
another
big factor,
thing that I wanted to point out. Yeah. Yeah. So I've never been more proud to be a Georgia football fan than, last week I thought, I was very, very proud of the fans and their turnout for the Pink Out initiative for Wendy Anderson.
Great.
Yeah, Blake Anderson's wife, who Arkansas State head coach, who passed away, lost her bout to cancer, and the Georgia crowd all wore pink and out of respect for Wendy Anderson. That was last week. You go back to 2017, and they're showing in South Bend. I mean, half of that stadium was red, and that was really, really cool. They've done that. They did it in Vanderbilt this year. But then this game, man, like, without that home crowd and out that Sanford Stadium environment with the light show and everything else they did, you put that at a neutral site, I think Notre Dame wins that game.
I think if that's in South Bend, one, I don't think you see as many Georgia fans if it's in South Bend this time.
Yeah.
But two, I agree with you. I think that had a pretty big impact on the game. To talk about Notre Dame just a little bit too is I think it's important for people who maybe don't follow them quite as much, is they dealt with a lot of injuries on offense. And that definitely had an effect on the game. And I think that certainly, listen, again, it's not taking anything away from Georgia, but it's a fact that their offensive receiving staff was pretty banged up even in this game, right? And I do feel it had an effect on the game plan when they got Kemp, who was even him only, 70% probably, and threw him a lot of balls because of their outside challenges that they had. To add to that, I think Ian Book is for real. Like, I think he looked good in that game. Georgia played great on defense. It did not give a whole lot of separation that entire game. I think Notre Dame's Achilles heel is they can't run the football because
they can't run the football for sure, and that was very, very evident to where with that tight end getting healthy or somewhat healthy enough to play the game, they were very, very much one-dimensional. But like I said, in a neutral site, like the way that Georgia allowed Notre Dame, and Notre Dame, I can't say that they completely allowed them. Like Notre Dame, again,
Notre Dame
played
well.
A heck of a game. Yes,
they did.
In a neutral site game, though, I think they might have had a little bit more momentum. First of all, they wouldn't have had 8 penalties for almost 100 yards or 12 penalties for almost 100 yards,
which cost them the game. Really, I mean, if you're Brian Kelly and you're taking how did I lose this game? You're looking at the penalties.
Right.
Like where Georgia's looking at the muff punt, right? They're looking at the penalties.
Right. So I think the ball might have bounced a little bit more towards Notre Dame in terms of the momentum they would be able to gain by having the neutral site, taking that out of taking that environment out of the game. And I was just really impressed with Notre Dame all around. I think Georgia, they did pull through and get the win. So that's ultimately what matters. But in terms of taking that and saying, let's go play LSU next week, let's go play even in Auburn right now, doesn't give me much confidence in Kirby Smart and the squad right now, just based on the inefficiencies with the play calling.
Warned you they won't live up to their potential, which is, national championship level. It looks like there's a
or bust,
ceiling on it. That shouldn't exist for sure. One shout I do want to give is to the refereeing in that game. We'll quickly touch on Utah, USC, and we'll talk about some real refereeing disasters. I thought they did a great job in that game. I thought most of Notre Dame's penalties were pretty legit and hard to dispute in most cases. And I think they did a great job on the back end, really letting the receiver and letting the cornerback actually have a chance to fight for a ball. I can't tell you how many times there's been a jump ball, right? And if there's any contact at all, that they call trashy pass interference play.
Yeah, they did a good job of determining like inadvertent or whether or not he had a chance to, look and he was playing for the ball, that kind of thing. Right. I agree. They did a great job.
Because we bitch about reps so much that sometimes when you see what I think is a great performance, they deserve it.
Gotta give them a shout out.
Yep.
But moving on though, those are going to be 2 long-winded segments for everybody because those are our 2 schools, but also they were 2 of the biggest games of the year. So that was a huge week for us and our fandom.
Yeah. Do you want to rapid fire the rest real
Yeah,
quick?
let's knock these out real quick. So we had a Utah USC game. Run us through that one.
Woo, ref show. So there's a running joke of Pac-12 after dark because really stupid things happen constantly. Balls bounce weird, and then, oh boy, the refs are just randomly pull shit out of their ass all the time, right? Let me tell you something. This is the piece of resistance of just ref shows of all times. Both teams had over 100 yards of penalties. There were over 25 flags thrown, 25 penalties accepted in this game. Over 30 flags thrown in this game. Some of the worst calls I have ever seen in my entire life. They clearly had times where, they bring someone on to talk about the flag. They had like 3 times the guy's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like Gene Steratore comes in like,
and they always
Gene,
try
what's
to
the call?
defend
Yeah.
him if there's a call that they don't exist. There are 3 times the guy's like, dude, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Where it was.
You couldn't even defend it.
It was. So USC loses their second string quarterback. Matt Fink, an Illinois transfer, comes in and throws 9 routes to their jump balls to their amazing receivers, which is how they score literally all their points into it.
What the hell is a Matt Fink?
Yeah, I think it's a Pokemon. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's a Pokemon, like one of those older generations.
I've never heard of that.
He's an Illinois transfer. Their third string quarterback grad transfer, came in and threw for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And he beat Utah. That was one of our sleeper picks to run the table. So damn it, Matt Fink.
So listen, it's impossible to say the ref show didn't have a giant effect on the game because it did. And I think if this is a competently reffed game, that Utah wins the game. Going and out and running. Are you looking at the box score? It's stunning, isn't it?
Dude, Fink threw for 351 yards.
Dude, it's all 9 routes. It's literally all jump balls. It's nothing else. Like, if you're watching the game, it was amazing.
Michael Pittman Jr. I remember his dad playing.
Yep.
Starting to feel old.
Ohio State, Michael Pittman did.
Yeah. And the Bucks, too, if I remember right, in the pros.
Yep. So
Armon Ross St. Brown, 5 catches, 68 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, for Utah, though, it was really they had 3 chances on the goal line. They got 0 points on 3 separate different chances. I mean, that's what you want to know why you lost the game. That's why you lost the game.
Yeah.
It's not creative on that. Despite the ref show, which, again, did matter and was embarrassing as hell, you lost the game there. Punch those in, you win the game.
Well, and then kudos to the Pokemon Matt Fink. I mean, like, you have those playmakers, and I think sometimes coordinators overthink this.
They do.
You have those playmakers throw the freaking ball up in the air because most likely you're not going to have the good refs we saw in Athens. You're going to have these other refs that are god-awful, and most times not, they're going to throw that flag. So you're going to win either way. Just put the pressure on the DBs, let those 6'5" monsters just go up and get it, and you'll be fine.
Jane Costin, all PI offense, man. It's genius, and it works. And it worked in this game. Like, this is why they won the game. I actually still think Utah – is it weird to lose a game and still kind of being impressed with them? Because I kind of was in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't have like you said, goal line inefficiencies. That will win or lose you a game. So if the other guys are making the plays to win, then, yeah, I mean, you can certainly be –
fluky. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, it felt fluky. This felt like one of those games you play it 10 times, Utah wins 7.
I mean, it just proves that it's really, really hard to go undefeated.
And hard to win on the road, too.
Yes.
As a side thing. Like, how hard it really is to win on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, the dog's barking. To move on to Auburn, Texas A&M.
He's upset I'm talking crap about Matt Fink. He's a
Listen, it's his Pokemon trainer, okay?
Auburn tops A&M in College Station. That what do you think about that one?
Weird game. Did you get a chance to watch any of this?
I did. I get to watch really just the halfway through the second quarter till the end of the third.
So I didn't watch this live. I had to go. I watched this yesterday, actually, kind of on that one of those replays that they do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, the quick ones. Those are great.
The quick ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So Auburn jumps out to a huge lead early and looks like they're just going to blow them out. And Texas A&M slowly runs in. It's a weird box score. Like, if you look at the box score, Texas A&M outgains them from about 100 yards, only turns the ball over once. Penalties are pretty even. And it shows a close game that you can see, but it's one you would expect Texas A&M to win.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, Bo Nix only had 100 yards passing. Rushing-wise, they had 2 guys get 50, 60 yards. Bo Nix had 40 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's hurt for sure.
But Kellen Mond threw the ball 50 times for 330 yards. So, yeah, you can tell they're playing from behind.
Yeah, I mean, they turtled for sure. And 2 of Kelmon's touchdowns were very late in the game, right? I mean, it was going to take somewhat of a miracle for them to come back
Yeah.
and win the game. I mean, Auburn was clearly on top, but I think you look at Auburn where their limitations and their ceiling lies. It's again, let's not overreact to one drive against Georgia, right? Bo Nix is still a freshman,
Or
and
Oregon,
they
you
treat him
mean?
like a freshman. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oregon, thank you. And they treat him like a freshman, and they can't really throw the ball very well. Gus Malzahn had some really good play call design, got up early, and just sat on him. And
Yeah.
it worked. And I think that was probably the way to play too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that was the wrong call, but I do think you show their ceiling. And I'm kind of disappointed in Texas A&M a little bit. Like, losing 2 games to top teams, shouldn't feel bad. But I kind of expected them to be a little bit more competitive.
Because they were playing from behind the whole game. I mean, it really wasn't that close.
Yeah, it wasn't.
They had to really fight to get back in it. And then going back to talking about scheming and coaching, strategies and whatnot, like, kudos to Gus Malzahn. Like, he's getting back in there. He's putting it on the line. Like, I'm an offensive guy. This is our make or break year. And, I don't think this team is necessarily going to get to the college football playoff or anything, but, like, I just respect the fact that he's owning up on it. He's going in and saying, all right, here we go. I think his enthusiasm and what I call his swagger on the sidelines just gets that whole team invested in and gets behind him. Whereas going into the year, a lot of that, there was a lot of buyout talk, amongst that fan base. So seeing that, I mean, I have nothing but respect from Gus Malzahn. Like, I think he's done everything he's got to do to get that fan base back behind him. And,
Saban has driven fan bases insane. Anybody who's
Yeah.
not Saban, every fan base is like, we have to get rid of our amazing coach. And
Yeah.
it worked once with Georgia.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's move to the funniest game of the week, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, the crazy comeback.
So I didn't watch any of this game. I was at an Ultimate Frisbee tournament. I died after the Georgia Notre Dame game. The last I saw was Wazoo was crushing him.
Yeah, I didn't catch any of this until I saw the comeback highlights.
So I wake up Sunday morning to, like, this long text thread from my friends who are college football hipsters, just going off on how crazy this is. I had a chance to watch it, and boy, they didn't do enough. Listen, I'm telling you, if you have 30, 40 minutes, go watch this football game in its condensed version. It's unreal. Like, I really can't describe it to you. So obviously they're getting blown out. 32 points, third quarter, right? The thing that makes this insane is they come back, UCLA does, then Wazoo gets up again. They have to come back, take the lead again. UCLA comes back, takes the lead again. Wazoo then scores again, right? Like, you don't have these giant comebacks that involve the other team keep putting up points. Like, how does it happen? It was insane, and it's why we love college football.
Absolutely. I mean, just going into that game, though, I think Chip Kelly had to win that game, for one. I mean, it's huge for him. He had to win a game like that to get the fan base and the alumni back behind him, the boosters. That's what we were anticipating from, again, going back to the Harbaugh conversation, like, doing what you do. Chip Kelly has told, like, apparently it's widely known around that UCLA program that he's not going to run the offenses he ran at Oregon. He's going to say, like, well, this is a different offense. This is, like, got a little 49ers and Eagles in it, some NFL blueprint. Why the hell would you do that, Chip? Go back to what worked in Oregon. That's why you got in the NFL in the first place. You got chased out of the NFL because you were terrible. Go with what worked and got you in the spotlight in the first place. So I don't know if this is the start of him getting back in that mindset or not, but I think it would be great. Yeah, I think it would be great for the Pac-12 and for the game, really. Again, putting those key coaches, like when he was a standout at Oregon, like that helped the whole game. And USC was hot at the time, like having that West Coast presence. But now it's just like there's nothing out there. I mean, there's nothing. There's no Pete Carroll at USC. There's just really nothing on the West Coast. The most interesting thing out there is Herm Edwards at Arizona State, in my opinion.
Well, that's true, but for less football reasons than Herm reasons.
Exactly. I just love the guy. He's awesome.
So one thing I'll say about this is it looks like the game has beyond past Chip Kelly. It's the same reason why Rich Rod is having problems, right? They were the innovative of the spread, but now the spread is pretty much the base of both college football and the NFL.
Everybody's running a nickel or dime package all the time.
Right.
So
it looks like where they were once the innovators, they've become the dinosaurs.
right.
I mean, that's what it looks like. I think, Chip, you should go with what you told reporters and run the triple option. That's what I think you should do, because every program should run the triple option if you're not an elite power, because it's the most annoying thing to defend and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
So
dude, look at Army. They're having a good year.
Don't play service academies ever.
Yes, do not, because you have to spend 6 months preparing for them.
That you'll never play again. That means
Exactly.
nothing else the rest of the year. No, trust me, as a Michigan fan, I'm on point on that.
Yeah. But no, I think it'd be better for the game if Chip could rebound, but I'm with you. Maybe it did pass him by here.
I think he just passed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get to key takeaways of the week here?
Yeah, man. What you got?
So I think Wisconsin should be on the list of LSU, Auburn, of teams that are kind of in the second, third tier that could actually make noise, right? Like, and we're certainly not putting them in tier 1. They'd have to beat Ohio State to do that, clearly, right? But on like the secondary, you should keep an eye on them to see if something happens. I feel like they should be on that tier.
Okay.
Michigan's got a lot of soul searching to do. They could turn it around, but this could be a disaster. I mean, that's what it looks like right now. Georgia is 2010, 2012 Alabama, which is going to win a lot of games, but I'm going to have some concerns when they play the true big boys. Auburn can't get behind, but damn, that defense is freaking good.
Yeah, I think them. It's a good point to bring that up with Wisconsin. I think you put them in the same category there. Neither of those teams can win from behind. I think they have to get out front and dominate the clock.
Well, I think they belong in that list of, right, they're not one of the top 5, right, the top tippy top tier, because they have a clear deficiency. But you know, you put in the right scenario and you can see them beating one of the top guys, right? Like, you know, against, say Georgia plays Auburn and all Georgia gets down 2 touchdowns because like a kick return and like a weird fumble. You're probably not feeling great at that for the rest of that game.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, something weird happens, I feel like they can upset, and that's the tier I think they're in. And finally is this: please pay the refs full time so we don't have this Pac-12 just disaster that we saw. That, I mean, like I said, I really can't. If you didn't watch the game in real time, we make fun of Pac-12's refs, and that can be funny to a certain extent, but that was beyond funny into just an absolute disaster where everybody should have got shot in the sun. Like, it was bad for it. And those are probably my big key takeaways for this week.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the play of LSU's offense, Justin Fields, Oklahoma, Alabama's offense, and really kind of how the game, the college football game, is changing to that spread attack that's just explosive, that, you know, you're going to have to score a lot of points to keep up with those teams. And so that's why, going back to the Georgia point, I don't feel very confident that they can, with that same approach, they can barely put away a Notre Dame that doesn't run the ball at all. Good luck facing even a Joe Burrow right now. They're going to probably have the same issues with Auburn. I imagine that'll be a close game. Good luck with Alabama and Tua and those guys and LSU. I just not going to happen.
Put some trust in them.
They got to, man. That's the only way. Well, that's my biggest takeaway as well. I think we saw a lot of good action this past week. We're about to hop over and do a preview show for this upcoming weekend's games, and also touch on a couple interesting topics within the world of college football. Please leave us a review. Subscribe to the Armchair Sports Talk channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at ACS Sport Talk. Let us know what you think. But that's going to be everything for the recap show here tonight. For Sean Hicks, I'm Brandon Harris, and we will see you next time on Armchair Sports Talk College Football.
See you guys.